Hello, students. Today we will do the second chapter of First Flight Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. This chapter is an autobiography of Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. So, this is an excerpt taken from this book. We know that Nelson Mandela is also called Gandhi of South Africa. He was the great freedom fighter who struggled a lot and he make his country free in 1994. On 10th May, he has taken oath for the of the first black president of this new nation, South Africa. So there was apartheid. Apartheid is a political system that separates people according to their race. So such kind of thing was there in practice, and we have also our ancestors. They have also faced the same thing here in India, and we have also gone through the same things. So we can understand that how much difficulties the South African people must have faced against Britishers. There is one on that day, on 10th May 1994. That was the day when Nelson Mandela has taken the oath of President of South Africa. So on that day, there was a news published in BBC. So this is a news which was there, which was published on that day. Mandela becomes South Africa's first black president. Nelson Mandela has become South Africa's first black president after more than centuries of white rule. So it's been 3 centuries white people ruled over there in that country. Mr. Mandela's African National Congress ANC party won 250 of the 400 seats in the first democratic elections of South Africa's history. So Mr. Mandela has won 252 seats out of 400 in that election. The inauguration ceremony took place in the Union Buildings Amphitheatre in Pretoria today. So that was the city, Pretoria, and in amphitheatre he took oath, and that inauguration ceremony was took place in that building, attended by politicians and dignitaries from more than 140 countries around the world. Never, never again will this beautiful land experience the oppression of one by another, said Nelson Mandela in his address. So, this is one very important line which he has said here, that never, never again will this beautiful land experience the oppression of one by another. So, that apartheid will not be experienced again in that country. Jubilant scenes on the streets of Pretoria followed the ceremony with blacks, whites, and coloreds. So all people were there, and even whites were also there who supported him, and coloreds means mixed color. We Indians, so number of Indians are also there, and we know that even Mahatma Gandhi has started his freedom struggle from South Africa. Then after in 1919 he came back. He came to India, celebrating together more than 1 lakh South African men, women, and children of all races sang and danced with joy. So this was the news which was published in BBC on 10th May 1994. Okay, so from here the chapter starts, and this is his autobiography which he has written, might be later. So he says that I'll only explain those lines which I think that those are difficult to understand. So I'll explain those lines, and the rest of the chapter I'll just read. The 10th May dawned bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. So, as we have already learned in that BBC, in that news, that more than 140 countries dignitaries were there on that day to be part of this inauguration. So they all gathered there in South Africa. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. So this was the largest gathering ever uh, happened in South African soil of international leaders. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy. So, for decades, this place was controlled by only white people. But now, this is the first time when any black man is going to take place, is going to take oath of president of that country. And now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations of the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. So why this word rainbow is uh, has this word is used here because of different colors means all the people, uh, white, black, and colored people, all racial, all races of people are supporting. They were supporting Nelson Mandela, and they wants to work under his presidency. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zenani. On the podium, Mr. D. Clerk was first sworn in as second deputy president. So, Mr. D. Clerk, he first took oath of second deputy president, and then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president, and Thabo Mbeki was sworn. He has also taken oath for first deputy president. When it was my turn, and this was his turn, I pledged to obey. He pledged to obey and uphold the constitution, and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. So he has taken oath. He took oath that he will uh, work only under the constitutions. Whatever the constitution is, he will only work under the constitution, and he will devote completely towards his country and its people. To the assembled guests and the watching world, I said, and this is what he said. He addressed to the public and the guests who were assembled there. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. So he said that he has experienced all those disasters, human disaster, in those last days, through which he and all his friends, all the black people who struggled against Britishers and those white race people, and now he want to assure all those people that such kind of society will be made, that there of which all humanity will be proud. So on for that society, all public will proud. We who were outlaws not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. So here, let's see. This outlaws means we who were outlaws because of its policy of apartheid. Many countries had earlier broken off diplomatic relations with South Africa. Okay, in United Nations organization, there are certain policies like Human Rights Commission is there. So, whosoever the nations who doesn't follow these laws or the policies of United Nations organization, they don't support, they don't promote those nations. So that is why number of countries have broken off their diplomatic relations with South Africa because of this apartheid. But now, again, all those countries again wants to continue their relationships with Africa because of Nelson Mandela becoming president. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. Because all these people believe that, they all think that now, again, there is a victory of justice, for peace, for human dignity. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. And he said that finally, all those black people, they have achieved this political emancipation, freedom, and we pledge. And he says that this is our pledge to ourselves, and ourselves means all those black people, to liberate all those people from all such things, bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other kind of discrimination. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. So he promised his nation that it will never happen again, that apartheid will be implemented in this country. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. So this was his speech on that day. Okay, now from here, the part of his autobiography, the book, Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets. So on that day, they when they looked there on the sky, there were African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy. Okay, he is saying that this is not only the show off of military power, but it was also showing it was all these people or military forces, they were rather showing their loyalty towards the government. Why loyalty towards the government? Because before Nelson Mandela there was supremacy of whites, but now there is supremacy of black. But even then, all those people, might be number of white people were there in those military forces, but even then they are showing their loyalty towards the government, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected, because that is freely and fairly elected. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So on that day, all these higher rank police officers and military officers, they saluted him and pledged their loyalty. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. And the same people, these same people, they arrested him, Nelson Mandela, a few years back. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our two national anthems and the vision of whites singing Nkosi Sikelel I Africa and black singing Die Stem, the old anthem of the Republic. So here, both white and black, they both were singing two different national anthems. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. Okay, why there were two separate national anthems for these two people, two races? It was just to show that equality, to show the equality between both of them. They would soon know on that day they were not aware of the lyrics by heart, but he was sure, Nelson Mandela, he was sure that soon they will learn it by heart. On that day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth. So he said that on that day he also overwhelmed because of the some history. He remembered that there was Anglo-Boer War, means between Britishers and blacks. The white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned peoples of their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world has ever known. So, we Indians are, are aware that what kind of inhuman or harshest rules they must have made, these Britishers must have made against these black people, because we also have experienced the same thing here in India. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century and my own eighth decade as a man, eighth decade means now he is in his 80s. That system had been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognized the rights and freedoms of all peoples, regardless of the color of their skin. Now, when he has taken oath, now his country is free, and he said that now he will make such laws and rules which will be free from all kind of races or color of their skin. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people. And this day, he has said that this day hasn't come just like that. It is because of the sacrifices of thousands of his people, people whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. So nobody can forget or repay their sacrifices and their sufferings. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. And he said that I am simply the sum of all those people, all those patriots who sacrificed their life before him. Means that he has become president only because of those sacrifices. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them, and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had brought. And his feeling so painful because he cannot thank those people. Because of those people, now he has become president, and he's also feeling painful because they cannot be part of this ceremony. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. And is saying that it will take another many years, maybe even not, if not generations, then definitely certain many years will take to heal up this wound. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Tambors, the Walter Sissulus, and these are all those people, all those freedom fighters he's talking about. Because of such oppression, such people had taken birth. The Yusuf Dados, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Sobuquas of our time. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like may never be known again. Perhaps it requires such depths of operation to create such heights of character. And here, this is very beautiful line which is said that perhaps it requires such depths of operation. Because of such kind of operation, okay, the creativity attains its heights, okay, to create such heights of character. And that is why, because of all such kind of operation, these people have become so much they have become so much courageous and with generosity and knowledge. My country is rich in the minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamonds. And he believes that his real wealth is not which is under the soil, but his people. Okay, they are even finer and truer than the purest diamond. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. And he admits that because of these comrades, because of these freedom fighters, he learned the true meaning of courage. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attacks and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. Resilience means here the ability to deal with any kind of hardship and recover from its effects. So it says that he's saying that here the people who were there with him in his freedom struggle, all those people have faced number of problems, and they always stand by him for this freedom struggle. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. So, what is saying that I learned that courage was not the absence of fear. Okay, the courage is not because of the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Okay, when we overpower that fear, that is real courage. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Okay, so the brave man, he who conquers the fear. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Here is making it very clear that nobody by birth hate anybody because of his skin, his background, or his religion. Okay, it is taught to them to hate such people. Okay, so rather to taught hate, it should be taught to love. Okay, because it comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, means they were tortured to the limit, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Okay, so those people, those white people who were torturing these people, so at some times, at some corner of their heart, those white people, these black people and Nelson Mandela and his friends can see a glimmer of humanity, and just because of that glimmer of humanity, These Nelson Mandela and his friends assure themselves that they can they should keep on going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. Okay. So every human has some kind of goodness in them, because of their behavior, because of their teaching. It is very much possible that uh, those goodness can be hidden somewhere, but that can never be extinguished. In life, every man has twin obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife, and children. And he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. So, according to him, there are two obligations. One is towards his family. In his family, his parents are there, his wife, and children, definitely. And another obligation is towards his country, means his country's people, his community, and his country. In a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Okay, as we all are part of the society, so we have to fulfill these obligations, and we do according to our own limits, whatever the abilities we have, or whatever the inclinations we have. So that inclination really matters. Okay, some people have that inclination more towards their country, some people have less inclination, but we all have certain kind of inclinations towards our country and society. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. And now he shares all those things which he has experienced when he was young, or rather younger, very small. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. Okay, so these were the laws over there in South Africa. So whenever any person tried to fulfill his obligation towards his family or his country, they were bounded. Okay, they were bounded not to do such kind of things, because that might be violation of the laws. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. Okay, he found that he could not fulfill his duty towards his family. I was not born with a hunger to be free, but he believed that from God's home he was not bounded. He was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by the laws of man or God. So, uh, he says that he believed that he was free. He can do anything uh, he can do anything in his village, in his society, in his family. He says that when he was a child, he was under his father, or under his customs of his tribe. He always felt that he was free man. Maybe because they never allowed him to do such things, which were the breakage of law. That is why he never experienced such thing at that time. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion. Here he explained it, that Later on, he got to know that his boyhood freedom was just an illusion. When I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, when he became young, when he had to do a number of other things, and those were restricted to do, so he understood that he is not a free man. That I began to hunger for it, and he wanted to be free. That hunger was there in him. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself and the transitory freedoms of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I choose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So, in different ages, he has described here that in different ages, he has different kind of freedoms. Earlier, when he was young man, he has a freedom of when he was just a student. He wanted such kind of freedom for himself, for only himself, to stay out at night or to read whatever he want. Okay, but later on, when in Johannesburg, he want to earn some money. Okay, so there he wanted to do any kind of job, such kind of freedom he wants, or to marry anybody. Okay, and to have a good family. So the freedom not to, and such kind of freedoms are not obstructed any law. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but slowly he learned that he was not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. And along with him, all those other people, all those other black people were also not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. So I understood that it was not only him, but all those black people who looked like him. They were also not free. That is when I joined the African National Congress. And then he decided to join this African National Congress, ANC. And that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man into a bold one. And when he joined this freedom struggle, he became from a frightened young man to a bold one. And here he said that that was a transformation in his life that drove a law abiding attorney to become a criminal. He was a law abiding attorney, a lawyer. And now he said that I have to become criminal for my freedom. He became rather freedom fighter, but in the terms of the whites, he was called criminal. That turned a family loving husband into a man without a home. So these are the things which has to face, had to face. A man without home, that forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. I am no more virtuous or self-sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedoms. Okay, all his freedoms were restricted. Even those very limited freedoms which were there for blacks, all those freedoms were restricted for Nelson Mandela. I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. Freedom is indivisible. The chance on any one of my people were the chance on all of them. The chance on all of my people were the chance on me. So he said that I am indivisible. Okay, I am with my people, and he's saying that those chance on me is like those chance on my people, and those chance on my people is like on me also. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. And here, look, here there is also sympathy for those white people. He said that these people who are oppressor, They are also prisoner of themselves. They are also prisoner of their oppression because they are a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindedness. I'm not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom and is saying that I don't want to take their freedom. Okay, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me, the oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. So we both are, even the oppressor and the oppressed, we both are not free. Okay, so here it is necessary to become free for both of us. Alright, so this is the end of the chapter, and there are a few questions. Let's look into these questions here. Why did such a large number of international leaders attend the inauguration? Okay, so we all know that why they were all gathered over there, because to be part of this oath ceremony. Okay, here South Africa was in the grips of apartheid until Nelson Mandela became the president and was then branded an outlaw by other nations. So there was that outlaw. Because of those that outlaw, these people never wanted to be a part of South Africa. But now, when Mandela became president, apartheid was abolished, and diplomatic relations with the several other countries were restored. Second question: what does Mandela mean when he says he is simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before him? Okay, here he meant that can connect with the unparalleled sacrifices of all those noble and brave men who have fought for African people's collective liberty. Because of all those people, this liberty is there for him, for his countrymen, and he was pained, not being, and was also feeling pain, not being able to thank them, and not being able to see what their efforts had done. Would you agree that the depths of operation create heights of character? Yes. How does it illustrate this? Can you add your own examples to the argument? Okay, here you can add the example of Mahatma Gandhi also. So this is the question which you can do on your own. How did Mandela's understanding of freedom change with age and experience? Okay, so as a child, Mandela didn't hunger for liberty because he thought he was born free. He believed he was free in any way as long as he obeyed his father and abided by his tribe's customs. And when he was adolescent, he had certain needs, and as a young man, he had other needs, which he wants to. Okay, which he wants to do there, and that is why he wanted such kind of freedom. And gradually, he discovered during his boyhood that he was selfish. He gradually understands that it is not just his freedom that is being curtailed, but the emancipation of all blacks along with him. The last question: how did Mandela's hunger for freedom change his life? We all know that the answer is almost same. In his youth, Mandela realized that it was not only his independence that was being curtailed, but the emancipation of all blacks. And that desire, the desire of his own liberty, was a desire of his people's rights. Alright, students, so this is the end of this chapter. I hope you all understood it. Thank you.